Hi there, this is Becky from Nomadic Knits, and today I am going to walk you through the last bit of our day 11 of the 12 days of Knitmas Mystery Knit Along. So as you can see, this is what I've chosen as my CC1. If you look back to the beginning of this swatch that I made to show you how we're going to do the Kitchener stitch, you'll see that it is the same color that I used for these rows up here. So this purpley bluey color, that is my provisional cast on, and this is my first CC. So for my last round of stitching for day 11, I'm using the same CC, and I am just finishing up these last couple of stitches here. So I've reached my beginning of round marker, and at this point, I need to put these stitches on either a piece of string or something to hold them in place so that I can block this. Because you need to, if you have your piece on, much longer needles, if you've been doing magic loop, then you might be able to block it with the needles in it. But if not, I'm going to show you what I like to do. And if you purchased a Knitmas kit or a mini kit, you may have gotten one of these fun little rubber strings. It's really a cord. It's hollow in the middle. And they're great for times like these when you want to hold your stitches. So you can just shove that over the end of your needle. And then you're going to, making sure that they don't slide off of that back needle, you can just slide your stitches onto this cord. And as I'm sliding these stitches onto this cord, I find it helps if you sort of press them up a little bit and they slide on there much more easily. You could also change your needle size if you have interchangeable needles before you do this, because it gives the stitches just a little bit more room to slide onto that cord. But it really is pretty easy once you get used to it. Then you just detach that from the end of your knitting needle and pull it through and give your stitches plenty of room here to spread out. And I just like to tie a knot in the end so I don't have to worry about the stitches coming off. So now you have your stitches free so that you can block. And before you block, you're going to want to make sure that you cut a tail here, because this is what you're going to use in this CC1 that you just finished up with. You need a tail so that you can Kitchener your ends together. And to measure the length that you're going to need for this tail, you want to have 8 times the width of your cowl as it's laid flat. So 8 times this width right here. If you're a math person, then that is 4 times the circumference. So it needs to wrap around here 4 times. In my head, it's just easier if I say 8 times the width. So I'm just going to roughly measure that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then, because I am not much of a gambler, I'm going to cut just a little bit extra so that I don't have to worry about running out of yarn. Okay, so now that that's done, because we are going to be blocking this while you have this long thread attached, what I did to keep it out of my way was I just wound it up like this and used one of these little stitch markers to keep it tidy. If you have a safety pin or, you know, whatever works for you to kind of keep it out of your way and keep it from turning into a tangled mess, go ahead and do that. So now that we have our cowl ready to block, we actually have one more step to do before that. We have our seams here along the edge. Since we've been doing color work, where we have all of these joins, they might not be quite as neat as you like. So now is the time to turn your work inside out. And it's totally fine to do that because you have safely stowed away your stitches on either a cord or a piece of thread. If you are leaving your work on the needles, I would suggest putting stoppers on the ends of them so you don't have to worry about your stitches falling off. So now you have access to your ends here on the inside. And obviously for your cowl, you're going to have a lot more of the ends. But what you can do is use those ends and either weave them in to tidy up any holes that might have appeared as you change colors for color work or stripes along the way, or you can simply tie them together in neat little knots. So for example, down here, if there's no hole here and I just want to tidy these up, just go ahead and tie 2 little knots. Snug them up nice and tight and leave them. Don't trim your ends at this time. And the reason behind that is because once you block this, you might discover that there are more holes that you didn't notice before, or something doesn't appear quite right. By not trimming your ends, you can very easily unpluck this knot and take them and weave them in to fix anything that you would like to fix. So I wait until after my piece has dried, after blocking, to just confirm that it looks the way that I would like it to look before I go ahead and trim those. And then you are going to want to trim them. You don't have to trim them very short. You just have to trim them enough so that they don't show through any lace work or through your suri silk, because that is more transparent. So once you have woven in your ends and tied your knots, you can turn your work right side out again. And you're going to go ahead and block this. And I know that blocking isn't something that everyone does for every project, but I cannot emphasize enough what a big difference it can make in the appearance of your knit work. It can make your yarn blossom. It can show off your lace patterns. It can help them to open up and really lay nicely. Especially in your Estonian lace section, it's going to help it to lay properly and show off those beautiful swirls that you created. And you've also had a couple of other sections where there is a little bit of lace work. Also in any color work that you did, it's really going to help the appearance of that color work. So as you block your piece, I would suggest that you put this line right here where you have your beginning of round. You know, you'll be able to see it because that's, you know, where your cords or your yarn or your needle is going to be coming out, is at your beginning of round. I would suggest that you position that to be on an edge. And the reason for that is because when you put that on the edge, those little jogs that happen in your color work or purl rounds, they're going to be sitting in a place where it is very difficult to see, because they're either going to be sitting on top of your work or underneath your work. So that is my suggestion for blocking. There are measurements that were mentioned in the cowl. It was supposed to be 8.75 inches wide if you were knitting to the suggested gauge. Now, because this is a cowl, that doesn't matter. I know that a lot of people don't do gauge swatches, so you might be knitting at a different gauge, and that's absolutely fine. So what you want to do, the most important thing when it comes to blocking your cowl, is to block it to what looks good. You want your lace bits to open up. You want your color work to lay nicely. You want to have a nice even edge along both sides. So the most important thing is not the actual width or length of your work, but that it looks right. So as you're blocking it, keep that in mind. And also don't be afraid to be aggressive, because there are parts of this cowl that will probably have pulled in a little bit for you, and it is okay to aggressively block those out. So you might want to use pins along the edge as you're blocking these, and once they dry, I think that you'll be really happily surprised at how effective it is at improving the appearance of your work. So that's all for today. I hope that helps.